Welcome back, friends. I hope you're all doing well. Today we're going to be discussing something very important when it comes to colored pencil art, and that is blending. If you are new here, my name is Kojo and I make videos on colored pencil art, tips, tutorials and all that fun stuff. So let's get right into it. I'll first do a quick demonstration before we actually get to the real life application of the blending techniques I'll be talking about. Please pay close attention to these demonstrations because they are extremely vital if you want to really understand the concept of blending as it pertains to colored pencils. Now, we can't talk about blending without first talking about layering because layering always precedes blending. We need to layer before we blend. Now, I've got several videos on here on how to layer, but in simple terms, it's when we shade colors one on top of the other in order to create depth and realism. And that's exactly what I did in this demonstration where I drew a sphere. Now, this is the final outcome of our layering process, and here I've done the exact same thing but twice, so we can easily demonstrate the two separate methods of blending. But what exactly is blending? Now, blending is simply when we merge our layers together in order to create a smooth or seamless transition between the layers. Like I said, there are two ways of doing this. You may have seen videos that try to explain so many different techniques, but essentially there really are just two methods. The first one is burnishing. Now here we pick a color that is similar to the colors we used to layer and use it as our blending tool. Let's call this our blending pencil. In burnishing, like you can see me do in this demonstration, we press hard on the blending pencil while moving in small circular patterns to avoid having any obvious start and stop areas. We mostly start from the light areas of the drawing and gradually work our way into the darker regions. Some colored pencil sets actually come with colorless blenders which you can use for this purpose. Now, another way of burnishing is to gradually increase the pressure with which we layer during the layering process until we get to the final layers. That way there's no need for a burnishing or blending pencil. Second method of blending is the solvent method. There are different types of solvents, but I use one with a turpentine base. I also use either a brush or Q-tip as my blending tool. Now, the key is to gently dip the brush or Q-tip into the solvent and then gently dab out any extra solvent from the tip of the brush or Q-tip before applying it to the drawing. Much like burnishing, here we also move in circular patterns. You need to make sure you have just the right amount of solvent at the tip of your blending tool. If you use too much solvent, you end up with a soaked paper, and that wouldn't look too good. If you have too little solvent, you will not be able to blend well enough. Now, the number of times you blend with the solvent really depends on you. Typically, I blend twice. After the first session of blending, I wait for a while just so the surface of the paper dries off. I go in with the colored pencils again just to redefine some areas and then blend again. I then go in with the colored pencils one last time to create some details. Here I'm doing my second session of blending, and here I'm applying the pencils one last time. In a typical drawing, this is where I create the details, and I'll be demonstrating that with an actual drawing in a bit. Now, this is the final demonstration. On the left is the drawing blended using the burnishing technique, and on the right is the one blended with the solvent. Now, let's see how to apply these principles to an actual drawing. Let's start with the solvent method of blending. Here, I've started with the layering process. Like I said, layering always precedes blending, and we need to make sure our layers are well put together before we start to blend. So I used the Q-tip as my blending tool in this one. I blended gently using small elliptical and circular motions. Like I said, this is done in order to avoid having any obvious start and stop areas. I then allowed it to dry before going in with the colored pencils a second time just to redefine a few areas. Here you can see me doing the second session of blending. Now you want to blend the light areas before moving to the darker areas in order to avoid smudging or mixing your colors together. I then went in again with my pencils for the last time to create some details and again to redefine a few areas of the drawing. This is the final drawing, and now we'll be moving on to a drawing done with the other blending method, that's burnishing. Now, I usually burnish when I work on skin. Using a solvent creates a very smooth texture, and skin, as you may know, has some bit of texture to it. So I find using the burnishing technique or method more appropriate when drawing skin. Here I'm done layering and I've started to burnish, again using very small circular and elliptical motions, and I did this for the entire skin in this portrait drawing. The burnishing method, like I stated earlier, relies a lot on pressure, so make sure you press hard enough to seamlessly merge all your layers together. Now, if you're interested specifically in portrait drawing with colored pencils, I've put together a resource that systematically teaches you how to make realistic portrait drawings from start to finish. It includes practice exercises and videos to help you better understand the entire process, and by the time you're done going through it, I can confidently say you'll be making amazing colored pencil portraits. The link will be in the description. I've also got an absolutely free guide called The Basics of Realistic Colored Pencil Art. A very useful guide if you are new or even an intermediate artist with colored pencils. It takes you through all the basic materials and techniques you need to start making amazing artworks with your colored pencils. Once again, it's free and the link will be in the description. Don't forget to give me a like. Also subscribe for more tips and tutorials. I'll see you in the next one.